All right, 15 games on tap here in college basketball, making way for a absolutely monstrous Saturday once again. But we got a few games here on the card tonight that we're going to break down for you, come up with a couple of best bets, because there are some of these mid-major games that certainly do have an edge or two to them, and we are going to break these down with three of the best at WagerTalk.com as we welcome back in Bryan Leonard in the house, Double R1L, Steve Merrill, and Mr. Rob Vino ready to roll here on this Friday now, January the 19th. Hard to believe, but here we go, guys, and we're going to start in the Big Ten. Why not? No better bellies to start than Wisconsin taking on Indiana. Both of these teams coming off of terrible losses. Certainly Wisconsin against Penn State, but 10.5 is what they're laying. They are comfortable at home here. I don't know what the hell to make of Indiana this year, Brian. Maybe you can help us out here. How are you looking at this game?
Yeah, I believe Robbie's going to take a look at the total in this one. I sent this over 10.5, and Wisconsin money's come in, so now we can grab 11.5, even better. Hoosiers were blown away in their first half, hosting Purdue last time out. I believe it was 51-29 at the half, and they were completely embarrassed in front of their home crowd. But this is a very good club who enters play at 12-6 on the season, 4-3 in the Big Ten. They're 3-2 ATS off of a loss, with one of those defeats only coming by half a point. So they bounced back from defeats very well. And Hoosier fans hope they don't have to do that much more this year. But that's what we like to do, is we like to take a look at teams that have proven that they can play well off of a loss. And that was an embarrassing loss at home against Purdue. Wisconsin, 13-4 on the season, including winning 12 of the last 14 contests. But they had their 6-game winning streak snapped, as you pointed out last time at Penn State. I went and looked at the Badgers after they lost their last 3 games. They're 0-3 ATS off of a loss this season, failing to cover the spread by a combined 28 points. Traditionally, Wisconsin is known as a defensive force, but they're allowing a defensive effective field goal percentage of 51.8 this year. That's not what I want if I'm a Wisconsin fan there. I think they're a little bit overrated at this point. And I think this is a situation we can take advantage of with Indiana. I just can't trust this Wisconsin team laying double digits. And it's the first time they've done so in league play this season. Most of their other games have been in the 7-8 range when they've been home. Now they're laying 11.5 to Indiana, who I still have like it's a top 90 team in college basketball. So Wisconsin's a better team, but I think this line is at least 2 points off, in my opinion. This should be a single digit, not double digits. So give me Indiana here. Two teams, as you mentioned, off of a loss, off of an embarrassing loss, but Indiana has proven that they can bounce back from it. Wisconsin has not as of yet.
Well, there you go. All right, good stuff. Getting double digits there with Indiana at Wisconsin tonight. We do have actually kind of the marquee matchup here. Late night action out west for Steve Merrill here, as he's going to be taking a look at UNLV and Colorado State. What a difference a month makes. Colorado State was fantastic, Merrill, to start the season. Everyone's favorite, top 25. And it kind of hit a brick wall here as of late, certainly when conference play began. And UNLV shocking the world. Was it Boise State? We talked about that game on the show earlier this week, and they ended up handling business there. But another tough road game here for UNLV. How are you looking at it tonight?
So yesterday on Thursday, Joe, when I sat in for you, I gave a free best bet at the end of the show. I used Colorado and the 10:30 Eastern FS1 game last night. I'm going to come right back now and use Colorado State in the big game breakdown for the Fox Sports 1 game, also now at 10:30 Eastern Friday night. And similar angle I'll bring up when I faded Oregon yesterday in Colorado. We've got UNLV playing in the thin air and altitude of Colorado State. I think that's a disadvantage. And yes, as you said, they just beat Boise State on the road 3 days ago on the 16th. But I think that makes the altitude spot actually tougher here. I don't think they all of a sudden became accustomed to it. Now they're playing their second game in 4 nights in the thin air of altitude off a straight-up dog win. So I think it's a bad spot for UNLV. Early money this morning also came in on Colorado State's move from 6.5 to 7. Even looks like it might go to 7.5 at some of the sharper books around the world. So I do think that's the sharp side in this game. And I agree with the move. As you mentioned, they're coming off back-to-back losses against Utah State and Boise State on the road, but then they bounce back with an impressive win against Air Force at home. And something I'll point out about that game is that Air Force plays slow half-court basketball, and that's the preferred style that Colorado State wants. Utah State and Boise play more up-tempo. Now, UNLV also just played Utah State and Boise. They lost to Utah State by 1, beat Boise. So the common opponents makes UNLV look attractive, but now they're slowing down against Colorado State after playing 2 up-tempo teams. So I think the pace advantage also goes to Colorado State tonight. Thin air and altitude in the scheduling spot as well. I think this is a good spot for Colorado State to get back on track. And like you said, this is a team that started the season really strong. They're still 14-3 straight up. UNLV is just 9-7. And if you look at the offensive and defensive efficiency metrics, they're the better offense and the better defensive team by most counts. And they're also an excellent free throw shooting team, hitting 76%, including 79% at home this year in their 10 home games where they've gone 9-1 straight up. I think that also allows them to pull away and perhaps win this game by double digits.
Yeah, that kid, that guard, Isaiah Stevens, absolute monstrous for Colorado State here. They'll be looking to keep it rolling against UNLV tonight in that late game. That should be a good one here. And our own Adam Trigger here at WagerTalk will have boots on the ground in this next game as VCU, Virginia Commonwealth, Rob Vino, will be taking on the Billikens of St. Louis here, 8.5, somewhere in that ballpark there. How are you going to approach this one here tonight in Virginia, I believe?
Well, I tell you, Joe, I'm going to take a look at St. Louis plus the 8.5 here, and maybe not for real good statistical reasons, because sometimes you can't make any logic out of what you see taking place halfway through a college basketball season where metrics, analytics, and basic statistics are concerned. But what you find with these two is you find St. Louis has an uncanny ability to hang around despite not being great statistically. And VCU has an inability to separate, even though being much better statistically. So that combination probably leads you to the dog here. St. Louis's last 8 games, let's just take a look at them. They've covered, in the beginning of this 8-game string, they covered 3 straight as an underdog. Those 3 covers were at Drake. Against Hofstra, they beat them outright. And against Louisiana Tech, they beat them outright. The most recent 5 games, they barely missed the cover at NC State. Real good basketball team, get 11.5, lose by 12, so they hung around. They missed by 2.5 at George Mason, get 9.5, lose 12, so they hung around. Beat St. Joe's outright a couple games ago. And then they cover at Dayton, only lose by 5, getting 11.5 in their most recent game. So there's 8 examples there. And I bring those games up simply because if you're going to look at Ken Palm's rankings of teams, all of those teams I just mentioned sit between 33 in the country and 133. VCU is 100, right in the middle there. So this is an opponent that St. Louis is, of that ilk that St. Louis has played and covered against. And really don't want to forget the fact that St. Louis covered against Utah State. Utah State sits number 41 in Ken Palm's rankings. Other side of the coin here, VCU 4-5-1 against the spread last 10 games, 2-5-1 against the spread at home. As a home favorite, 2-4-1. The only 2 covers they have as a home favorite this year, Alcorn State, ranked number 331. Gardner Webb, ranked number 218. Not much. They pushed against Temple, 224. Haven't covered against anybody that's any good as a home favorite. Yet VCU, when you go through these metrics, they're decisively better than St. Louis in almost every single defensive category. St. Louis's offensive strength, their asset is 3-point shooting. VCU stops the threes. They only give up 30-something%. So I would say this, the last 2 games in conference play where we really start to see what teams are. St. Louis has played 2 of the best, St. Joe's and Dayton. Those 2 teams couldn't be any more different. St. Joe's, they like to launch threes. Dayton, extremely slow paced, both ends of the floor. And they play with a defensive philosophy. So somehow St. Louis, who's well coached by Travis Ford, was able to be the inferior team, and hang around. And they were destroyed inside. They're a small team, guys. I think they're like 267 in the country in average height. Dayton, their stud center, Deron Holmes, goes for 29 and 14 against them, destroys them inside, and yet they still only lose by 5. So I keep coming back to the same point here that somehow, some way, St. Louis stays in games. Somehow, some way, VCU doesn't defeat anybody by margin. They held George Mason. Steve, I think I was on the show with you. We did VCU George Mason that day. George Mason went 0 for 15 from beyond the arc, and VCU barely won the game. They win by 4 points. So I don't know why you wouldn't want to take. Listen, this statistical stuff, it's all bound to change at some point. But for me to sit here and try and guess and project when that changing point is going to be, when VCU statistics are going to start to mean something, and when St. Louis's poor statistical stuff is going to start to mean something, I can't sit here and guess that. So for the time being, you're going to give me 8.5 in a conference game with a team that hangs in. I'll take St. Louis plus the points.
All right, there you go. Billikens looking to get it going there here tonight on the road against VCU. All right, so you got 3 big game breakdowns. We got 3 best bets coming up for you, 4, including our good friends from the Gold Sheet. But a quick reminder here that if you're just joining us now for the first time, go ahead, hit that subscribe button, WagerTalk TV, become part of the family, as nobody has more daily and weekly content on all the big games coming up here in all the sports, whether it be NHL, college basketball, NBA, NBA. We've got a little something for everybody here. So hit that subscribe button. And if you're joining us live here on the telecast, go ahead, hit that thumbs up. We'd appreciate it as we get ready for best bets here. And we'll go back to the top here. And boy, oh boy, this has got like essence of Trig written all over it here, Brian Leonard. His alma mater, Siena, taking on Quinnipiac, but you are having none of it, appears. Tell us what we're doing in this game tonight.
Yeah, he was originally supposed to be on the show. I was going to see what he had to say about this, but yeah, we're going to fade his alma mater here, and we're going to take what I consider to be one of the better teams in college basketball that really nobody knows about, other than the guys who study it each and every day, and that's Quinnipiac. The Bobcats are starting to put it all together as of late, winning 3 straight, bringing the record to 12-4 on the season. 3 of the 4 losses were against top 100 competition. They're 5-2 straight up on the road, with the only defeats coming at UMass and Florida, 2 pretty good basketball teams. Quinnipiac isn't going to dazzle you offensively with a 48.1 effective field goal percentage, but they do play solid defense, holding 10 of their 16 opponents to under 70 points. Siena Saints, I'm sorry to say, are one of the worst teams in college basketball, ranking 348th in our power ratings. They're off a rare victory, beating Niagara 93-88. And after the 2 previous wins, they didn't follow it up very well. I talked about that in the last game I broke down. We'll talk about it again here. After the 2 previous wins, they lost by margins of 42 and 32 points. This isn't a team that's running on streaks when they win a game. They've been such a bad basketball team that doesn't do much of anything positive. I think their offensive rebounding numbers here are a little bit better than the Bobcats. That's probably about it for this team. They don't foul quite as often, but this is just a bad basketball team that doesn't do much of anything positive. A 44.7 offensive field goal percentage, along with a 54.1 defensive field goal percentage. If you're this far in the season and you're down about 10%, which is what they are, 9.4, I believe, that's not a good basketball team, and it's somebody we could take advantage of. Usually bad basketball teams don't have much of a home court advantage, so we're not expecting much out of Siena's faithful tonight. The lines makers do a terrific job on the openers, no doubt about it. Rarely make a mistake. I think they made a mistake here. They opened up Quinnipiac 4. It's been pounded up ever since, up to 6.5. Wouldn't surprise me if it does hit 7, but I think there's been a little bit of buyback. Our numbers have the Bobcats favored by 9 points in this one, so there's still plenty of quality value here from what is our favorite basketball team that really nobody knows about. Give me the road team Quinnipiac minus the points here over, unfortunately, bad Siena team.
Yeah, I did not understand. There were a couple of games on a short card, didn't understand the opening lines of, and this is certainly one of them there with that opening of 4, and it Didn't take long for the Quinnipiac backers to go, yep, we are good to go here, up to 6 in a lot of spots right now. So still chance for you to jump on in there, guys, as that game will be coming up, 7 o'clock Eastern time tip there. Should be a fun one. And so should this one, although you're going to have to dig deep in the cable networks to try to find this game here. Maybe Merrill's got a link he can send out that we can actually watch this game between LIU, of all places, taking on St. Francis of Pennsylvania. And boy, I got to tell you, call me crazy here, Merrill. This is probably not going to be a heavily watched game, but that doesn't mean there's not an edge to be had in it. So go ahead, tell us what you got going on and break it down for us.
Yeah, there's actually been a sharp money move in this game, and I'm going to tell you which side that was on and also if I agree with it. But first, since it's a small card and Adam Trigger's not on today, I took his spot to fill in. He's on the way to Virginia, to the Commonwealth. And I know Rob Vino loves math, but one thing Rob Vino loves more is history. Sports history, Brian Leonard loves as well. But it's going to actually be some math because I'm going to go off on a tangent here. And yes, I'm talking about St. Francis, Pennsylvania. Not to be confused with St. Francis, New York, but we don't have to worry about that anymore, folks, because as of last season, St. Francis, New York got rid of intercollegiate sports. The reason I bring this up, Joe, and the reason it's a bad thing for William & Mary, and of course I got to work William & Mary into the analysis somehow, right? Because I watched them lose as a favorite to Campbell last night, and I sat in the third row so you couldn't see me on the live stream that I know you were probably watching. But there are only now 5 teams since 1939 when the NCAA tournament began that have not received a bid. St. Francis, New York was one of them. They closed down shop last year, which means William & Mary is still one of those 5 teams, along with the Citadel, New Hampshire, Maine, and Denver. And yes, Army has never played in the tournament, but they received a bid in 1968, and Bobby Knight turned it down and went to the NIT instead. How do you like that? Wow. So anyway, little history, but this is St. Francis, Pennsylvania, and we are using them tonight minus the 4. This line opened 2.5. It's up to -4. There's even 4 minus money, might go to 4.5. I agree with the move. There's a couple situational things. This might be an ugly game, might be a small college game, but there's a couple of situational angles that I like here that I use in college basketball. First of all, St. Francis dominated this series last year. They won at home by 19 as an 11-point favorite, and then went on the road and won by 11 as a 7.5-point favorite, and they were up by 11 and 17 in those 2 games at halftime. Nothing misleading about it. Both teams are struggling this season. Now the line is only -4. And I also like the fact that St. Francis returns home. They're off of 4 straight losses. They've actually been at home for the last 2 games, but they were a home underdog in both of those. And the 2 road losses before that, they were a road dog. And guess who they beat most recently, December 30th? Campbell, who I saw play last night. And Campbell manhandled William & Mary. They're actually not a bad team at 9-9, something we'll talk about maybe in some future episodes. Meanwhile, LIU, Long Island University, just lost by 24 at Sacred Heart of their last road game on Saturday. I don't think things get any better here. These are 2 ugly teams. Whenever I can take the better team in a focused spot with a short number, which I think is St. Francis, PA, I'll do so. Play the Sharks. You see that logo there? They're the Sharks. You got Lemoyne Dolphins, the Long Island Sharks. I don't know what's going on up there in New York. Trigger's not here to tell us. But anyway, St. Francis, a sneaky play on the extra board today at 7 Eastern. Oh, by the way, Joe, NBA best bet tonight, WagerTalk.com.
Yeah, keep in mind a really nice 1-10 on the road, those Sharks here. So no wonder why nobody is looking to bet them. I'm still going to have to try to figure out how we can get this game on TV somewhere. We'll have to see if we can come up with a link, because no doubt it'll be available somewhere, somehow. Rob Vino. All right, Vino, we the cat out of the bag here. We know we talked about the side earlier in this Big Ten matchup with Indiana and Wisconsin. You are going to focus on the total for a best bet here tonight. So I think I know which way you're going, but I could be shocked here. So tell me, which way are you leaning in this matchup tonight?
Well, let's shock the world, Joe, and say under.
No!
When I first sent it in as a play, it had already been pushed from 144.5, the opener, down to 142.5. Within 15 minutes of letting the production crew know that I was going to use under 142.5, it went down to 141.5. So there's been a substantial amount of money on under in this particular game. And By the way, I was just trying to see if we could drive to Massapequa and maybe catch that Long Island game here
Oh,
on local
my
TV. It's
God.
possible. Got to fight the
Yeah.
snow though to get to that one. There's multiple reasons here. I'm a big believer in head coaches like to fix what went wrong the last time. What went wrong for Wisconsin in their last game Tuesday night was defense. Penn State, a high octane tempo type team, scores 87 points, beats Wisconsin 87-83. They just couldn't handle the pace and they fell into it. Really, Penn State got the game going, and Wisconsin never quite was able to slow it down the way they'd like to. They're not quite the same defensive team that we're accustomed to seeing out of Madison, but they're still really good. Only 66.6 points per game allowed. Only 48.1 effective field goal percentage allowed. That's 39th in the nation. And Indiana, they're going to probably try and run because they're a quicker paced team too. But I don't know if on this court in Madison, if they can do the same thing as Penn State could do on their own home court. Indiana's, this has been a house of horrors for them. I think I saw they've lost 19 in a row here in Wisconsin. So it's not been good for them as far as outright wins are concerned. For Indiana, what went wrong last? Well, they faced Zach Edey, and Zach Edey shredded them. 33 points, 14 rebounds. Wisconsin's big on the interior, but they're not that big, and they don't have anybody that's Zach Edey. So maybe Indiana can fix their defense here as well against Wisconsin. They've been in a shooting slump as of late. You look at their last 3 Big Ten games, Indiana 39.7, 43.3, and 41% from the field. Not great. So we'll see if they can break out of that. Maybe Wisconsin can take advantage of that defensively. Again, I think it boils down to which team, or maybe both, can fix what went wrong in their last outing. And the pace has to be considered here. I mean, Wisconsin, 363 Division I teams, they're 346 in longest time to take a shot. They take 19 and a half seconds, 19.4 to be exact, before they even take a shot. Indiana, defensively, they make you hang on to it a little bit, 17 and a half seconds before you shoot against them. So, standard math, possessions are going to be a little bit limited here. You'd have to shoot a really, really high percentage and make everything in order to get this game to go over, in my opinion. But let me take a quick shout out here. We talk a lot, Joe, about shot quality and other metrics type websites that are out on the internet. Let's go ahead and shout out Hazelmetrics or Hazelmetrics, maybe. I don't know exactly how it's pronounced, but they do have a category which basically talks about quick points per game allowed. Wisconsin's number 1 in the nation in that category. Quick points are defined by offensive rebounds, stickbacks, anything that happens within 5 seconds of taking possession. Fast break, transition, quick stickback. Wisconsin only gives up 5.7 of those a game. It's by far and away the best number in the country. So if you're looking for quick points out of Indiana, I don't think you're going to find them. I talked about how long it takes Wisconsin to shoot the basketball. I think they're going to play better defense here tonight. Greg Gard will probably insist on it, probably has in practice, probably will tonight. I think Indiana brings that same type of intensity on the defensive end after getting torched by Purdue and Zach Edey. I think Brian mentioned it was 51-29 at half. That doesn't stand well with Mike Woodson. So give me both teams playing defense here. Maybe Wisconsin wins this game with 70, which keeps it under. I think that's probably the way to go here, under 141 and a half.
All right, let the record reflect. Rob Vino is on an under. Okay, tonight. I know that's going to come as a shock to some people. Certainly shocking over here, but under it is. Also, probably not shocking is I was trying to locate that Long Island University game here tonight. As it turns out, ESPN Plus carries just about every
it ain't on there. I already looked.
that you have never heard of. They are one of the only games tonight. They don't even carry it. They're going, oh, hell
Correct.
no. Nope. Can't find it on ESPN Plus either, Merrill. If I can find
Yeah, that's why that move from 2.5 to
-4
wasn't exactly the public. Let's put it that way.
They
Get the
won't
rabbit
even
ears.
carry it, so Why? Yeah, exactly. We're gonna have to go deep into the cable network.
Use Rob Vino's ham radio, and he can broadcast it over the internet for us.
Yeah, we're gonna have to get the little transistor radio to try to get this one.
Use the right microphone, Rob.
Unbelievable. Woo! Friends from the Gold Sheet, though, they have themselves a play of the day, and we'd certainly encourage you guys to head over to goldsheet.com. Check out all the write-ups they have for the games. Great stats, as you can see on the screen there, of all these grades, games, rather. Great information. And they're going to look at the other game here tonight. You heard Brian mention earlier that opening line was a bit head-scratching there in that Siena Quinnipiac game. Well, the other line that got absolutely crushed right after it opened was this one here with Fairleigh Dickinson taking on Stonehill there. Opened up 1.5. It's now up to 4, even 4.5 for FDU right now. And the Gold Sheet, they love the under in this game here, 153.5. And they're pointing out, of course, that FDU, the number 290 offensive efficient team in the country, along with the number 279 in effective field goal percentage. They just played, in fact, 6 nights ago, and they finished the game with, 128 points in regulation before they went to overtime. So these aren't exactly two offensive juggernauts here. This is a great write-up on this game. Certainly worth checking out, guys. Head over to goldsheet.com, and the under 153.5 is the way they are looking. All right, that'll do it for us here on a Friday. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to hit that like button. And a recap for those of you just way too lazy to listen to the breakdowns, and you scroll right here to the end of it. Well, here you go. Rob Vino going under. I cannot believe it. 141.5, Wisconsin, Indiana. Quinnipiac. Quinn, you can clap that out for those new to Quinnipiac. -5.5 for Brian Leonard. Merrill going deep here tonight, people. St. Francis laying the 4 against the LIU Sharks. And the Gold Sheet, folks, Stonehill, FDU under 153.5. And we appreciate you guys hanging out with us, but don't go anywhere. Click on that video that's on your screen right now. Get access to all the other big-time head-to-head matchups coming up this week across all sports. We've got your previews. We've got your breakdowns. We've got your best bets. All you got to do is click on the screen right now and then come back and join us again on Monday for another week of the College Basketball Tip-Off Show. Good luck with your plays. We'll see you again soon.